So for this week, for anybody who is tuning in or is going to be tuning in or watching posthumously, we are reviewing something that we've been talking about sort of here and there, off and on. And I think we decided that I was going to make the commitment to watch The Social Dilemma, and it was something that I needed to take some time away to do. It's been a stressful month, and that's the type of show that I didn't want to invest in for a little while, and I'm glad we did. It really
Good.
made me think quite a bit about my usage. I thought the first thing we could do will be jump in and look at a preview or a trailer
Awesome.
from the actual show to jog your memory. So let's cue it up. Trailer for The Social Dilemma. I'm just going to talk as if it's a seamless transition. And there it is. So it's a great trailer, actually, having seen it after the fact.
No, I agree.
And what I noticed before I started watching this, there was actually somebody on my Facebook feed who had very much was not part of the echo chamber on Facebook in the current political climate, but he had sort of get more on camera here. You want to get more of the good stuff. He said that he's watched The Social Dilemma and he's going to be taking time away from the internet, from social media, which I thought was intriguing. And when I watched the show, I had views on, following our conversation on what we discussed, and I think my views were along the line of there's always going to be vices that we have to learn to adjust to as a society. And I think when we spoke about it, my view was, so for instance, processed food is something that we've had to adapt to because it made us ill. It was killing us. So we I think in sort of the 60s, we had more easy food, and we started to see obesity rates going up. When we, smoking early doors, people thought that was healthy. The advancement of Coca-Cola, television and advertising, and many of the things in this documentary do match very well with how, advertising's come to fruition. But there were some definite differences with it, with, social media being what it is. And I'll be honest, it did have me really looking introspectively at how I use social media. I'm not necessarily worried about me being influenced by that, and I don't think I'm that demographic that's going to be easily influenced. However, I did notice some patterns that surprised me. Now, I know you haven't seen it in a while. What were your what was when you first saw this? What did you think when you finished watching?
I suppose just surprise with the manipulative side of it, and actually how much I fall for that. And I think within that evening, what was really interesting was I was on Facebook because I use Facebook more than any other, and I would like to think it's mainly for business, but actually since watching that, I realized I do a lot of just kind of time wasting on there, like, for or distraction on there. And I saw a post from someone, and I think it may have mentioned me, or it was a comment from me or something, where it was one of those linked ones. And then, so I had viewed that. And then later on in the evening, it said, I had a pop-up notification that so-and-so's mentioned you, or a comment that you're in, someone has commented. I was like, oh, I had seen that already. And yet now later on, it's popped up. I thought it was only for the initial time that would do that. I was like, oh yeah. So that was almost instantly, that same evening, I saw an example of it in use where it's just trying to claw for your attention. So it was. So again, I put my hands up as someone that uses it. I think I use it far less than a lot of people that I'm aware of, because I try to not, get my head stuck in a phone. I'm kind of aware of that, and yet I still fall for some of these things and find myself kind of flicking, on the occasion. Oh, what am I doing? I'm just, get off this thing. So yeah, I was taken aback by some of the way it's constructed and how I do unknowingly fall for its efforts.
Yeah, and I I was trying to really qualify what are the positives and negatives after watching this. And the first thing that came to mind after watching it was that my opinion hasn't changed that the tool is not inherently positive or negative. The internet
I
or
agree.
social media, or even what the social media companies have done to keep your time on it. Now, for anybody who hasn't seen The Social Dilemma, I would highly recommend it. And they have, and I like this method of writing a documentary. They had a storyline that went with it, with a family
Yeah,
trying
it was
to
interesting.
negotiate social media, and it was interesting. And there was some things. One, I think you have to put into context too. It's trying to deliver a very specific narrative. So there's some irony in it because it's delivering a very specific message that's only highlighting on the negatives.
One side, yeah, agreed.
It not. I mean, they do say
Got an
here or
agenda.
there, in bits. All of them did say, "Look, we thought this thing was going to be, good," and it has. And you heard throughout the film, oh, it has done some good. However, but through it was really highlighting the negatives. And the first thing I thought was this internet optimization, as far as what you like, is really good for porn. I thought for porn, this is the best thing in the world, because if you liked, big boobs and you liked girl on girl, then the internet was going to say, "Oh, would you like more girl on girl?" And for somebody who likes porn,
check
I
these
think
out.
it's incredible. Yeah, I think it's an incredible porn tool.
I'd second
Now,
that.
it's wonderful, because the whole idea that it's bringing up things, and what you highlighted wasn't I don't think it was a social issue, because I get caught in these traps on Facebook specifically. I'll see a video on Facebook, and then Facebook will bring up another video right under it. I found myself 3 hours later looking at videos of nonsense. And then when I hit the fifth Rick Lax video with some stupid magic trick that's just idiotic, I bail. But that's 3 hours later, because I've seen a video, another video I like, and I've just wasted my time. Now, have I, wanted to hurt myself, or have I wanted to join a cult after that? No, I haven't. But the other side of the coin that it highlights, that's changing my point of view from when we first spoke about it, it's just something we need to adapt to, is more to do with young people, more to do with impressionable people, and the fact that we're not preparing people to deal with social media. So the narrative, not so much with the young guy in the film, but with the girl in the film, really struck a nerve with me, because I thought that was a very real thing. And the data on suicides is very real.
It's shocking. Yeah.
And there's this whole culture when you look at like Instagram, or you look at, just people vying for likes, it is going to have a negative mental impact. And for me, more so than keeping you on, I think that's the purpose of every type of media, whether that's television, whether that's radio, even whether that's food. McDonald's wants you to keep coming back and eating more of it. That's natural. But when it comes to people's mental health and how these things affect your mental health, if you've grown up with these things, I think for me, that was an alarming thing. That was the first thing. I mean, did that hit you in any way when you saw that? Did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. What I found quite interesting, this is just slightly off the social media, but relevant to what we're saying. I'm in a property investment group. I'm in a 12-month program, and there's a couple of what they class as kind of graduates. So there's basically an 18 and a 19-year-old on the course, and they pay less, but they're in between sixth form and uni and trying to learn like a skill. So it's an awesome thing they're doing.
That's great.
But I mean, these girls that I've talked to are fantastic, and they're inspiring, and all of these fantastic things. But when you start talking about them and their actions and what they're doing, there's this huge vulnerability underneath them. They lack confidence. They're so worried, really worried about how they come across, and how I was like, who gives a shit? I was like, why would you worry about that? And I would kind of talk it. And obviously I'm saying that from someone that's a 38-year-old balding man that's kind of given up on his life. But like, I know what I was like at 18 and 19, and there's that, that kind of self-hate, or like that doubt. And you just constantly want the approval of your peers and people around you. So going back to your point now, just to kind of use something more recent that I've kind of noticed, it's just so it's so obvious. These people are super switched on. They're like investing in themselves, putting money on the line to try and grow, and they're doing something that's really difficult at 18 and 19. Yet these switched on, driven people have this underlying doubt and a need for approval. So let's just wind that back to when you're 13, 14, or even 11, however young people are on them now. And it's so obvious that when people are liking you, or you've got a photo and people are commenting or not, and I think they're so vulnerable. There's this massively powerful tool that is been purposely designed to tap into our psychology, and it's inadvertently, and in some cases absolutely purposely, preying on these vulnerable people, and it's that concerns me. I think your point is right. I think actually my mum, hands down, is addicted to social media without question, and I don't think she's aware of it, but she can't keep off her phone. And I think that's the thing. It's like the guy, that one scene where they basically remove well, if it's not that big a deal, let me just take that phone from you. Like any addiction, let me just take that away from you, and let's see how you cope with that. And the reality is people cope very badly with it. And so I would attest, like you, I'm someone that probably deals with it a lot better than many other people. And I probably don't fall down the rabbit hole as often. Yet I was still surprised at how often I do, and that couldn't help me think about the more vulnerable people that aren't aware and open, and learn about themselves, that they are really falling into this trap set up by social media.
Yeah, when you think about what life was like when you were a kid, or when I was a kid, it was a different world, and I was trying to put myself in the shoes of a 13-year-old with a phone and Facebook, and I found it really intimidating, knowing what I know now, because now you've got when you were growing up, you had a break from those social pressures, and now you are 24/7 in those, and you are able to spend your time trying to create, improve your stock value as a person. And that's what you're doing when you're young. You're constantly vying for popularity. This was when I was 12, 13, 14, 15, it was, my life was about working to become popular and become liked, because I was a bigger boy. I didn't have that confidence in myself until I was about 14. 14, I made a decision that I was going to be a confident person. So who I am now is very much built on the, I guess my self-esteem was very much driven by my self-esteem at the age of 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, was definitely driven by let's say my weight, being a big guy as a kid before I started playing football. And I would have been on social media constantly trying to find good angles to make sure my tits were less obvious. I would have been trying to get likes from people that were popual, and I would have been.
Your lips.
That's right. Duck
your
lips.
ass out. Yeah.
That's right. Just showing a little bit of tail. But I would have been living. I think I would have been living for those likes. I mean, to a certain degree, you do. To a lesser extent, now you don't live or die by it. You turn on Instagram, and if you put a photo up and you see a lot of likes, you're like, oh, that feels nice. There's a lot of people that like my photo. When I share a photo, it's so that people back home, and I think this is cool. I want to share this. But there's an element where those likes give you that little hit of dopamine, and
that's the danger.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's everything we do is dopamine, and this is where I had to draw a line on the documentary. Not as far as I don't like it. This is where I draw the line, but this is where I needed to take a step back a bit, because that hit of dopamine is in everything we do, whether that's play sports, whether that's.
I disagree. I would say it's in everything we do. It's in a lot of modern society, but there's huge chunks of it where we're not, and I think that's where we're at danger, and that's where people are missing out. There's that lack of awareness, and there's actually a lack of want, because it's a driven need. Now people are addicted to being distracted and getting dopamine hits, and I think your generalized point is that it's everywhere. Yeah, like it's in so many places, but there are many places where it isn't, that people just don't tend to go there. So that's where I would just kind of push back on you a little bit on that point.
Well, I think when we look at, maybe the dopamine is too specific an example, but if we were to remove the internet and remove social media, we were trying to find those pleasure centers in other areas. We weren't just sitting at home saying, I'm just even reading a book, that we're stimulating those pleasure centers to a lesser degree. So we are constantly looking for engagement.
Yeah, I kind of did a little bit of research on happiness, and it was saying that you can one way of, I mean, it's a very complicated thing to look at actually, but one of the ways that you can look at it is just the chemical side of it. And the dopamine hit is highly addicted, and that's when people get addicted to things like drugs or social media or have other addictions, is because it is in line with that part of your brain. And the thing is, it's fleeting, so it's highly addictive. You sought after it, but and when you don't have it, you want it, like any addiction. But it goes very quickly. It comes and goes, and the type of chemicals that we want to have more of for natural, longer lasting happiness are serotonin, and oxytocin. And both of which you can get more serotonin from how you eat and gut health and that type of thing, because I think 90% of your serotonin comes from your gut. But from oxytocin, the greatest thing is human contact, and that's human touch and human connection. So whatever it is that you do, your club, your sport, just hanging out with your wife, walking, even nature as well, you can get that longer lasting. So serotonin can last hours and days, and oxytocin can, in some cases, last weeks and months. So you just have this glowing feeling.